Come, let us explore this morning's Dzogchen class and group practice that we too could meditate like a Jedi. This morning's lesson is based on the 50th passage of the meditation classic Unwaning Victory Banner, composed oh so many centuries ago by Prahe Vajra of Odayana, which today is known as the Swat Valley of Pakistan. Come, let us relaxingly recite. Being self-perfected, there is nothing to be desired. Being pure from the beginning, it is already nectar. By the 12 sense bases in particular, there is nothing to be grasped, however noble the intention. For this to make sense, I need to spend a few minutes reviewing the basics. The Buddha, real or imagined, is an excellent archetype of Yin's spiritual matriarchy, the personification of being flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. His foolish cousin Devadatta is an excellent archetype of Yang's religious or irreligious patriarchy, being the opposite of the Buddha, being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. Sadly, Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. This is what the psychiness looks like. Therefore, it should come as little surprise that 90% of meditation teachers implore their students to over-focus and overanalyze. Now, yes, they may give them spiritual-sounding terminology like concentration, contemplation, samatha, and vipassana. But regardless of what you call it, a rosebud and another name which still smells sweet, and overworking the medial and dorsolateral prefrontal cortex will induce us to present with symptoms of depression, as well as trigger our amygdala, the seat of both anxiety and aggression. Fortunately, neither the amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Consider, if you will, the spinal cord. Nicknamed the Buddha nature, our Buddha nature, and described as our autonomic nervous system. When we cooperate with it, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, it calms the anxiety and aggression of our amygdala and gently stimulates the empathy of our anterior cingulate gyrus, that which functions as the hub of our mirror neurons. Perhaps that is why the late Tukul Tundap insisted that the highest love was the spontaneous and uncontrived fringe benefit of training in mindfulness and meditation. Let's take a deeper look. Every time we inhale, we have evolved to automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, described as our sympathetic nervous system. This bad boy has evolved not to cause us to concentrate, but instead to do the opposite, to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly all manner of phenomena, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque, including mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. But what do we do with that which we noticed? Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to automatically exercise the end bits of our spinal cord, which are like bookends, if you will. They're described as our parasympathetic nervous system and support the physical relaxation and mental release that cause that which we notice during our previous inhalation to fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, and even less defining. The majority of complex life forms evolve to think symbolically. Therefore, it should come as little surprise that all humans use figures of speech. That can be applied to meditation. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we notice during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. My 4th grade teacher explained that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. So we have to ask the question, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could look tantalizing to the eye, feels non-graspable to the hand. The most efficient way for us to notice the play of mind or the antics of mind, that is mindfulness, is for us to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this each time we feel our diaphragm pull in and down as we inhale. The most efficient way for us to practice the meditation that is simply relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature is for us to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease each time we feel our diaphragm relax back up into its neutral position as we exhale. Now let's return to this morning's lesson text. Being self-perfected, there is nothing to be desired. We are wired to notice, and we're wired to release during each inhalation and each exhalation. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we desire or dread begins to melt into the simplicity of just non-graspability. So whether we desire a lover, whether we desire promotion, whether we desire health, whether we desire enlightenment, as we relax into our exhalation, that which we desire during our previous inhalation could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. We have two behavioral drivers in our underbrain. We have a dopamine-oriented reward system that rewards for reproduction and anything that facilitates reproduction. And we have an oxytocin-oriented system that rewards for cooperation and kindness and compassion and contentment. The dopamine system experiences spikes in pleasure that by very definition are fleeting. Ask a physicist. The dopamine-oriented system creates a more sustainable pleasure that we would describe as fulfillment. We transition from being competitive to being cooperative, from being cruel to being kind, from being crazed to being contented, through the magic of noticing and relaxing in cooperation with our inhalations and our exhalations. Just by passively cooperating with our autonomic nervous system, we're able to use all the treasures of our brain in the most sustainable way. The more we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more we'll notice that our choices, utterances, and deeds flow, not from scattered spontaneity, but from a centered spontaneity. And that makes everything we choose, say, and do subtly blissful. Nectar here is a metaphor of bliss or pleasure. By the 12 sense bases in particular, there is nothing to be grasped, however noble the intention. Whatever we grasp during our inhale, let me rephrase this, as we relax into our exhalation, whatever we notice during our previous inhalation, whatever we grasp at during our previous inhalation could feel as non-graspable as the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although it could be tantalizing to the eye, is non-graspable to the hand. There are some people who've been taught that we must contrive an altruistic intention. But the highest love, the most sustainable love, is not contrived. It's the spontaneous and uncontrived fringe benefit of noticing and relaxing. That gently accesses the seat of empathy in our brain. One has but to read the Tao Te Ching to see that people will often justify horrible things with noble sounding reasons. Sometimes they're even sincere, but it still ends in tears. We don't have to do that. If we but define ourselves by mindfulness and meditation, then we will involuntarily do the kind thing and the wise thing spontaneously. We are witnessing a dramatic rise in fascism, and it can be difficult to know what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. We can be assailed with many impulses. Those impulses are not the fruit of mindfulness and meditation. The spontaneity that is most trustworthy is the centered spontaneity. The spontaneity, the centered spontaneity that can act as a bullshit detector. Just as Aesop's fables taught us of the trope of the wolf in sheep's clothing, there are many people who claim to be revolutionaries, but who are as rigid and as controlling as the fascists. Why aren't fascists artful communicators? Because they're rigid. They are stuck in rigidity. Fascism is the fruit of being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling. It makes them elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. Just as it is folly to fuck in the name of virginity, similarly, if we use the tools of our oppressors, we will become their doppelgangers. Let us do the right thing, the wise thing, the loving thing, from a place of centered spontaneity. Having completed our opening lesson, we could now shift gears. It is Rey Skywalker Sunday morning. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is the Dzogchen Sende Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I could become your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remainder of this morning's live stream, let's practice. Having sat for the better part of 20 minutes, let us take a moment to adjust our legs. The most efficient way for us to keep track of our first collection of 144 inhalations is for us to rest the first knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger, palms up in our lap. We could use the tip of our right thumb to touch the 3 sets of creases on each of the 4 fingers of our right hand to count the next 12 inhalations. We could keep track of 12 sets of 12 inhalations by using the tip of our left thumb to touch the three sets of creases found on each of the 4 fingers of our left hand. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist philosophy or meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about once every 5 minutes or so. Every 15 minutes or so, you may wish to adjust your legs, especially if you are prone to arthritis. The most efficient way for us to keep track of our second collection of 144 inhalations is for us to rest the second knuckle of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger, palms up in our lap. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or philosophy, simply type your question in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about every 5 minutes or so. The easiest way to practice mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation. The easiest way to practice meditation is to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. We've come to the final 5 minutes of this morning's meditation, so let's make it count. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In about 10 3/4 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.